I think your correspondent captured the issue when he used the word radicalization. There are groups that are itinerant, and even by their name, a lot of studies have been conducted, and the studies have narrowed down to suggest that the name Lakurawa is derived from a French word that speaks to attempt to recruit. In other words, those who are attempting to recruit. And so it's very possible that this were a group of itinerant persons who were involved in proselytization, preaching the version of Islam that they understood. And then along the way, they became radicalized. Now, what is radicalization? Radicalization is adopting a version of a faith that promotes and encourages violence. And so procuring weapons, acquiring weapons, and then using force to either convert or in certain instances to instill the type of administration that they believe is the better one than the one that exists in the certain communities. Now, from history, we know that because of the porous border between Nigeria and the countries surrounding us, if we narrow down on Niger Republic alone, the borderline is about 1,400 kilometers between Nigeria and Niger. Now, over time, historically, there has been movement between Nigeria and Niger, between Niger and Nigeria, sometimes for legal purposes, other times for illegal purposes. Okay. Now, it's specific reference to this group. It appears they used to come either for hardened purposes or for ideological purposes to preach religion, or sometimes to markets that exist in those locations, running from all the way from Kebbi to Jigawa. There are several markets, international markets, that so along the way, it's very possible that this group became radicalized. There are so many moving parts to this story. A lot of research is ongoing at the moment. So it's possible they became radicalized. And why did they become radicalized? Any student of counterterrorism who is looking at the situation in the Sahel region would know that radicalization is a possibility. The two major jihadist groups in the world, which is the Islamic State and the Al-Qaeda, the hotspot for their operations at the moment globally is the Sahel region. And at the last count, there were about 30 groups that are active within this region. And the consequences of the activism of this group has led to at least 2 to 3 coups within that region. Mali, 2 coups in Mali, where security was cited as one of the reasons. Recently, in Niger Republic, security was cited as one of the reasons. Of course, we know what is happening in Burkina Faso at the moment, where about 50% of the country's territory is in the hands of these guys. So once there are groups that are moving around that region and interfacing, as it were, using the same gun-running channels, the same routes that have been established for movement of transhumans and several other activities that they do, then the possibility of interaction between these jihadist groups, the Al-Qaeda that I mentioned, and the Islamic State in West Africa province, as well as the one in Greater Sahara, the possibility of interaction between them and then the consequent de-radicalization is extremely high. So that is possibly where this de-radicalization happened. And then from a benevolent group that was moving around, either for economic purposes or just common proselytization, they became radicalized. And from that radicalization, we started seeing instances of attacks. And just like your correspondent mentioned, there have been several of such instances. In one instance, it was with the community. Then in the most recent instance, it was with the Nigerian security forces. So in terms of origin, their origin is from the Sahel. Most of them are either Tuaregs or the other natives that are domiciled within the Sahel. Of course, over time, they may have recruited from locals within Nigeria. Their activities is bordered around parts of Sokoto State, that especially Tangaza local government, down to parts of Argungu and other local government within Kebbi State. So